Hey everyone! After my recent video discussing who you should pull for this patch, I can't say I was surprised that pretty much everyone is pulling Acheron, and the ones that aren't are most definitely going to get her on the rerun. Because of this, I've received so many questions on how to build her and gear her up properly that I decided to make this video way earlier than I usually would. It's taken a lot of boring math stuff, but I'm ready to go through her build options in full detail. But before that, I want to remind everyone that I have a now very outdated 6,000 subscriber Express Pass giveaway that's still ongoing in my Discord, and I'd love as many to enter as possible. But anyways, let's get right into the video. Straight off the bat, I want to talk about Acheron's signature and give my own take on it, as there is a lot of discussion going around on how much she actually needs her signature to be viable. I personally believe she does not need her signature to be viable or to even be good. I think that even without her signature, Lightcone Acheron is still an extremely good high damage character. She may have worse ultimate generation without her signature, but I don't think this really defines her as a character or really changes much in general. Getting a 2 or 3 turn ult on Acheron is still very good, and her damage output is still great regardless. But anyways, this doesn't take away from how good her signature actually is though. Acheron's signature, along the passing shore, is as good as a signature can really be. It grants her crit damage, and lets her get an extra stack when using her skill, as it inflicts a debuff on the enemy which helps contribute to her ultimate rotations. As I mentioned before, this is more of a consistency thing, with her usually being able to skip out on waiting an extra action for an ultimate, or at worst, a couple of teammate actions. Acheron's Lightcone will make her feel much better to play, mostly due to the fact that it makes her usually strict ultimate rotations feel a lot more loose and consistent. Her Lightcone, aside from the debuffing aspect, is still a really good stat stick for her damage as well. Even with no extra ultimates assumed, it still is better than the next option by almost 15%. If you can get her signature, I would heavily recommend pulling for it. The only reason I can actually think about to go against pulling for it is if you can grab her E2 instead, which I'll be covering soon, as there is quite a lot to talk about regarding it. Acheron's other Lightcone options aren't as bad as many people make them out to be. She does actually have some viable options outside her signature which she can use to great effect. The obvious runner-up to her signature is Good Night Sleep Well, a gacha Lightcone that is seriously way too good to be a 4-star. It gives 2 orbs worth of damage with a restriction that is pretty much free to have 100% uptime on with Acheron. The only main problem with this Lightcone is that it is gacha exclusive, which means that quite a lot of people have it at a low superimposition, but looking at the current trend of rerun banners, this should most definitely be rerunning in 2.1, as it has been 12 banners since its last appearance, so a lot of people should end up getting this at S5 soon. For the 3 people worldwide who pulled Silverwolf's signature Lightcone, you really lucked out, as this happens to be second best option for Acheron. This is mostly because it has a very strong effect of applying vulnerability to the enemy. Everything I discussed about Acheron's Lightcone and its debuff applies to this Lightcone too, which makes it even better. It also happens to give crit rate, which is always appreciated on a character like Acheron, who relies on critting her damage. Some other notable Lightcone options that Acheron can use starts with Welt's Lightcone, as it serves as a generally decent stat stick for her, and it's pretty accessible as it's on the standard banner, meaning a lot of people most likely own it already. And Resolution, which serves as a good option in dot teams with Kafka and Black Swan. Overall, Acheron's Lightcone selection isn't really that bad. In fact, I'd say she has a pretty okay selection of decent to good Lightcones. Unlike a certain character, at least she has options that are not 25% worse than her signature, and she doesn't really need it at all to do the major damage that people want her to do. Moving on to her relics, Acheron is pretty simple in this aspect, as she's able to make use of quite a lot of relic sets due to the nature of her kit. The debuff set is basically tailor-made to be excellent on her, with the set providing up to 40 crit value and 12% bonus damage. A lot of people, including me, thought this set was useless for her due to not having a debuff in her kit, but her ultimate actually does apply 1. Being the resistance penetration her ultimate gives, which means she can gain the full effects of the set on her ultimate and the skill following. Even without full uptime on her entire kit, this is still her best set by far, and I recommend you farm it for her if you can. Acheron can also make good use of the lightning set, as the damage bonus and attack are really strong stats for her. For all the people with old Jing Yuan pieces, this is a chance to bring them out of retirement. The final option for her relic sets is the various 2-piece combinations. These are all solid options and do the job pretty well. If you have really good substats on your mixed pieces, then it's most definitely worth using them, even over a bad debuff set. Acheron's planar options are also pretty simple too. The one that's tailor-made for her obviously will end up being her best option. The new planar set gives her 12 crit rate and 12% attack, which stacks up to be quite a fair bit better than the other options. However, I wouldn't say the difference is worth farming a completely new set for. Inert Salsoto will generally be the best option for most people. It provides crit rate and some bonus damage from her ultimate, and it's a generally universal set that most people have farmed at some point. Space Sealing Station and Glamoth are also great options for her, with Glamoth being just as good as Salsoto assuming you can hit the speed requirement. The final thing I quickly want to cover is her main stats. You build Acheron like a standard crit DPS, wanting a crit rate or a crit damage body, with crit damage tending to be better if you farm the debuff in her new planar set. Speed or attack boots are fine at E0, with the better choice being the one with better substats most of the time. However, speed boots will generally feel better to play with most of the time, so if you have to decide, I would go with them. An attack orb tends to outperform a lightning damage orb due to the abundance of bonus damage she gets in her kit, but like I said before, it really comes down to which has better substats. Finally and obviously she wants an attack rope, with it being her only option really. If you want to compete for the bricked account speedrun, you can run an energy recharge rope Acheron with tutorial to truly generate the most energy possible. Anyways, if you have any questions or inquiries about building your Acheron, feel free to ask me in the comments. I link the sheet I made for most of the calcs in the video in the description, and don't forget to join my Discord. I am getting scarily close to 10,000 subscribers, so for once, subscribe if you enjoy my content. But that's all from me. I'll see you guys in the next video.